Hello, everyone. Kira and I are very, very excited about our To Have and to Hold workshops that we're going to be doing over the next several years. We're hoping to be able to bless congregations, bless churches, bless marriages. We're excited about the response that we've already had from people that we know that said, oh, this was really going to be good for couples. We believe it's going to be good because not only is it going to bless churches, but it's going to bless couples. And we think that if you bless churches and couples, that communities get better and society as a whole gets better by strengthening those marriages. And so To Have and Hold is really designed to do that. But one of the things that we wanted to do is kind of give a preview of what our workshop is all about. And we're going to do that in a series of videos that we're going to release over the next several weeks to kind of give just a teaser about those things. So this first video, let's just talk about what the first session of our workshop is going to look like. In that first session, of course, we're going to have introductions, talk about who we are and those kinds of things. But we really want to focus in on the sacredness of marriage. The title of it is so interesting. It's a line from the movie, The Princess Bride. I got you that movie when you were graduating high school. And one of the most famous lines from it is, marriage is what brings us together today. And so that's really the whole purpose. The reason that we're going to do these workshops is because we want to talk about marriage.
That's right.
And in that first session, we're going to talk about the sacredness of it. And that really stems from a conversation that Jesus had with some Pharisees that were questioning him about marriage. And in Matthew chapter 19, is it 19? Matthew chapter 19, Jesus is asked about marriage. And one of the things that he says is that what God has put together, let no man, do you remember what it says?
Put asunder.
Yeah, that's the King James.
Right.
Put asunder. What is
or let no man separate.
Let no man separate.
Language,
more modern language. Nobody says asunder any longer.
No.
Imagine using that terminology in your everyday life.
Might have to try that. Just see the reactions from people.
Tell your kids, hey kids, we need to put asunder this laundry and put the whites over here and the colors over here. They'd look at you like you're crazy.
Oh, for sure.
Well, in marriage, God doesn't want us to separate.
Right.
And what he has put together, we're supposed to stay together. And the whole purpose of that is to honor him. And that's the kind of theme that we have going on with this To Have and to Hold. We want people to take a hold, to have their marriage, and then to hold on to their marriage, do the things necessary to make it work and to stay together. So that's the whole purpose of it. We want to talk about some famous couples that we know, famous ones like in our world today, famous ones that we would look at biblically, and then maybe some real ones that we know. Name some famous couples like just in the world today. What do you think?
So I think of Jimmy Carter and his wife Rosalind. They have, I know that they're old, but...
he's like 99 years old.
Yes, but they have been...
At the time of this video, Jimmy Carter is alive and he's 99.
That's right. And they have been married for 77 years.
That's crazy.
That's a long time.
It's a long time. Yeah, absolutely.
But pretty amazing. That's definitely a feat in this world.
So why do you think that why would you consider them successful? So like his presidency probably wouldn't be considered successful, but his marriage is. So why do you think that's the case?
Well, marriage takes work, and when you work together, you strengthen that bond. And why would you want to separate or be with anybody else at that point? You learn to love and to work with that person all through your life.
The good and the bad things about each other, you kind of learn how to work with.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah. All right. So who else? Who do you think of that might be another famous couple?
Okay. So somebody that you actually told me about recently was Ralph Lauren.
Yeah. So I watched this documentary on Ralph Lauren this past week. First of all, I do like his clothes.
Yes, you
do. I wear his clothes.
Yes.
But it's so interesting because him and his wife, Ricky is her name. Such a strange name for a woman. But Ricky and his wife, Ralph Lauren and his wife, Ricky, have been married, and they've been doing this business for a long time. Like they started making neckties, sewing his name on it. And then they went down to Bloomingdale's to try to sell them to Bloomingdale's. And Bloomingdale's said, well, we'll take them, but you have to take your name off of them and put our label on it. And of course they said no. Well, they came back and they got even bigger. And him and his wife worked the business all these years. Yeah. And now they got like 3 kids and a very successful business, but a successful marriage.
Right. They've been married for 59 years.
Yes,
That's a long time.
That's crazy. That's awesome. All right. So who else is a famous couple you think of?
Okay. So I am a sucker for a Bond guy, or for James Bond.
Okay. So Sean Connery then, right?
Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, okay.
We'll go a little more modern. What's interesting about him, though, is his first wife, he was married to her for about 11 years, but she passed away. Pierce remarried about 10 years later, and he's now been married to that same woman for about 22 years.
Oh, wow. So. That's great. That's great. So, yeah, that's pretty amazing as well. So you look at these famous people, and a lot of times in the entertainment or politicians or, in the industry of fashion, you wouldn't think that these people would just really see marriage as something that's sacred. No. But whatever the case is, these might be considered successful marriages for whatever reason, for sure. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about some biblical marriages that we would consider are successful.
Well, I mean, the first one that comes to mind is Adam and Eve. They're the first couple.
All right, so what makes them successful?
Well, I mean, they didn't have any other choices, really.
Yeah,
so, right. I mean,
I'm sure that when the gorilla comes by, Adam's like, it kind of looks like me, but
it's kind of cute,
not really going to do it.
No, not good enough.
Or the giraffe walks by and he's like, okay, no way. The neck is way too long on that one.
Yeah, too tall.
Too tall.
Just can't do that.
It'd be really ridiculous. But anyway, what happens is God puts Adam to sleep and creates woman for him. And when he sees Eve for the first time, he says, this is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she's from man,
right. Yeah.
And so that's pretty amazing to me.
Yeah.
I think that they're successful, even with we look at them, we think, look at the mistakes that they've made. They introduced sin into the world, but they're still successful in the fact that they were the first parents ever, the first married couple ever. They didn't have any other examples but what God taught them to be.
That's right.
So that's pretty amazing. All right, who else would be a famous biblical
So I
couple?
think of Abraham and Sarah.
Okay, so what makes them successful?
Well, they'd been married for quite a while.
Yeah.
God had promised quite a bit to Abraham, and those promises depended a lot on him having offspring. Yeah. And even though he was old and Sarah was old and really past the age to bear children, God gave them the promised child, and they overcame some of those challenges, even overcame the challenge of potentially killing this offspring.
Yeah.
And working together in that way in order to honor God and to follow exactly what he had for them, the plan that he had for them. It's a pretty amazing story.
I think one of the things that makes Abraham so successful with Sarah is the fact that when God told him to pack up everything that you have, your whole family, and I want you to move to a place that I will show you. So even Abraham didn't even know where they were going, right? He was just going to follow and trust God for God to show him where he was going to go. Yeah. Now imagine if I would have come home and I say to you, you got home and I said, Kira, I want you to pack up everything that we own, get the kids together, and let's just go to a place I'm not really even sure where we're going.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go very willingly.
No.
I'm going to ask about 1,000 questions.
Oh, I know you would. The first question that you're going to ask is, how much is this going to cost us?
Oh, right. How are we going to pay for this move to who knows where,
Yeah, exactly. Well, still, with Abraham and Sarah, they trusted in God, and even through those obstacles, those challenges that they had, they were, I would consider, a successful couple.
And a really good example for us on how we can overcome those same challenges or similar, any challenges really in our marriage.
That's exactly right. All right, so now, obviously we have some real, actual people that we know, successful marriages as well. The first couples that I think of are our parents. My parents have been married for almost 50 years. Your parents the same way.
Yeah.
That's pretty spectacular.
Yeah, it is.
And, these real couples that we know, and in our workshop, there's going to be couples that the people in the workshop are going to be able to bring up and to talk about in those congregations, and say, these people are a good example for us, and we'll talk about what makes them so successful, and just really make it a relevant, down home, easy to understand example for us.
Yeah,
so that's great stuff. So really, this first session is going to be dealing with the sacredness of marriage. What makes marriage so successful is the fact that people need to look at it as something that's from God, something that God established, and that man doesn't have the liberty of taking something that God has put together and putting it asunder.
That's right.
Right? That's what makes it sacred. God is putting it together. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about those successful married couples, and that'll be session 1. But let's talk about what the other sessions in our workshop look like. So what are some other things that we're going to be addressing?
Okay, so one of the other things, this will be session 2, is going to be all about communication. We're calling it syncing with your spouse, because communication obviously is the foundation for any relationship, but obviously is very vital in your marriage. And so if you're not on the same page, if you're not synced, if you're not communicating well, your marriage is going to fall apart. It's just not going to be good.
And when we're talking about communication, it's not just telling the other person what to do.
No, not at all. Not at all.
It's about being in sync, and it's about communicating together and making decisions together. That's a key part of that.
Absolutely.
Right? And also just the simple things of learning and reminding ourselves, hey, I need to send her a text. Hey, I need to call her. Or hey, I'm going to let him know that this is happening, and put it on our calendar, and those kinds of things. So just the real life things that we do to communicate need to be talked about, and remind people to do those kinds of things.
Definitely.
Sometimes we might get lazy in our marriages and think, well, they know what's going to happen, and I don't have to say this. They know already. Well, we need to be reminded to go ahead and say the things. And we'll also talk about some good things that you can say to each other that will encourage each other, lift each other up. One thing that men need is for their wives to tell them how good they are, how proud they are of them, and those kinds of things. So we'll talk about that. And then wives need to be told how much they are appreciated, how much their husbands love them. So go ahead and take the time to say the words.
Right.
So anyway, what else? What other sessions are we going to be talking
kind
about?
of along the same lines of communication, we're going to learn about how to fight, because in every relationship, there's going to be some confrontation.
I don't think you can have a relationship without confrontation.
No.
Even our relationship with God is one that has confrontation at some time or another. God has said, here's what he's expecting of us. And we are people that are going to fall short.
That's right.
And so there's going to be confrontation between what God wants and what we want. Well, that's the way relationships are anyway. One book that we've began to read, we got about halfway through it, I think, is a book by that couple that was on The Amazing Race. They have a YouTube channel.
It's the Holderness family.
Christmas Jammies. You remember the
Yes, that's what got it all started for
What's
them.
his name? Penn and Kim Holderness.
Yes.
Okay. Well, they wrote this book called Everybody Fights. And I appreciate it so much because it really brings to light the fact that no matter how successful your marriage is, the real successful ones are ones that learn how to fight fair and learn how to fight right.
That's right.
So I'm excited about that. That's going to be a good key part that's going to be relevant in people's lives.
Absolutely.
All right, so what else are we going to talk about in the workshop?
Okay, so no marriage seminar is complete until you talk about sex.
Okay, so that's a fun one. I love this conversation.
Oh, yeah, you do.
I think most men do. Now, it might make some men uncomfortable, and that's quite all right as well. But that's just part of what God has designed for marriage. It is a key benefit of marriage is to have this sexual relationship with each other. God designed man and woman to be able to have sex, to procreate, and to just enjoy each other for pleasure. And so the problem is that the world has taken sex and tainted it to be something that God never intended for it to be. And so we want to show married couples that your sex life can be superior if you'll do it in the way that God intended.
That's right.
Okay? So our world will talk about all kinds of other things when it comes to sex. Let's talk about the way that God intended for it to be.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
too many times I think in Christianity and in the religious world in general, we're afraid to talk about this.
Yeah.
But it's something God created. So let's talk about it in respect for with how God created it.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah.
that's what we're going to talk about. And you're going to be just fine. We're going to make it through that part of it.
Yeah.
You'll be able to help the ladies with that for sure. And I'll try to help the guys, and it'll be a good conversation.
All right.
What else are other sessions that we're going to talk about?
Well, what's in your wallet?
Oh, okay. So you're not talking about Samuel L. Jackson here.
I am not.
Okay.
But
right now I have nothing in my wallet except my driver's license and a debit card. I don't ever carry cash. But that's the thing about it is some couples do things differently when it comes to their finances.
That's right. You know? But finances are a huge part of your marriage. And, it's my opinion anyway, that's what leads to a lot of conflict and ultimately divorce, really, is just disagreement over money, or maybe one person spends too much and it frustrates the other person and they just feel like they got to get out. But at any rate, we're going to talk about how to budget and how to work together as a couple to be successful financially.
Making sound financial decisions.
Yes,
you know.
yes.
One thing, I think this is what sets our workshop apart from maybe others, is that we're going to dig a little bit more deeper into that.
Yeah.
I think that we're able to do that because you are certainly the most qualified, between the two of us at least, to be able to talk about it. You know, you have a CPA and a master's degree and you work as an auditor. Yeah. That doesn't mean that your life financially is perfect. We have made our own financial mistakes.
That's exactly right.
But we also know some things, mainly because we've learned from those mistakes.
Right.
But we also learn some things that are biblical principles for how you take care of your money.
Yes.
And so we're going to talk about those things as well.
Yep.
All right?
Yep.
All right, another session.
All right, so the last session and the main part of the seminar that we'll do is just called BFFs. It's about servitude. It's about serving your spouse. It's about how to be together as friends. You're really supposed to be each other's best friends. So
yeah, that's right.
We're going to talk about
that. So this is a really interesting part because I think a lot of times couples will go through stages in their lives. Mm-hmm. So when you're first married, you have no kids, you do everything together, and then you have kids, and sometimes the friendship part of your marriage suffers.
It does,
because all of a sudden you're not just going out and doing things together. You're always thinking about how can we do this as a family, and we've got all these other obligations as a family, and then you lose touch.
Yeah.
Then what happens is that couples will raise their kids and their kids move out, and then you've got two people that have forgotten how to be best friends, and they're having to relearn all that again, and that's a challenge.
Oh yeah.
So I think what we want to do is coach young couples on how to be the best friends forever, and then coach couples that are in the middle of raising those kids and how they can take the time and intentionally set aside time to be able to be best friends.
Yep.
And then also, can we talk about how to reignite your friendship even after your kids have moved out and you're an older couple, maybe on the brink of retirement or are retired, and you want to be friends again, you know? So there, you got these stages, and I'm not sure, just 3 of stages or whatever are there, but we're going to break them down in those kind of categories and talk about that.
Yeah.
So that's really what our workshop is about. This can be adaptable. If a church came to us and said, "Can you talk about this aspect of marriage?" Well, we can certainly integrate that, change some things up, and put that part into our workshop.
For sure.
The key thing is that we want to be a blessing to other churches, and we want to be a blessing to other couples because we believe in the sanctity of marriage. We believe that marriage is designed where you can have it and you need to hold on to it. And we want to equip you with the tools and the knowledge and more than anything, the emotional connection to want to stay with your spouse and work on your marriage.
Yeah.
We really want to motivate people to be connected and to build their marriage to be stronger than it ever has been before.
Yep.
Now, we're not perfect.
No.
So all these things that we've talked about, all these things that we will talk about, We're not experts on it.
No, not at all.
We are still learning ourselves.
Yep.
But I think that we have something that is high quality to offer to churches that will help.
Absolutely.
And to couples. We're doing this in church settings, but we want to reach those couples.
Yep,
so
that's right.
It's good stuff, isn't it?
It is.
All right. Well, anything else you want to add to what we've talked about? Can you think of anything we've missed or anything like that?
I don't think so, other than these sessions are going to be informative, but they're also going to be fun. They're not going to be uncomfortable or awkward or weird or anything like that. We're going to...
Now, we're uncomfortable. We're weird.
Oh, yeah. I'm awkward. You're not, but I am. But
we're going to have a great time. We've got games to play.
Yes.
We've got prizes to give away.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes.
Your congregation is going to come away from these kinds of workshops thinking, wow, we've got to do that again.
Yeah.
This is so good. And I wish so-and-so was here so that they could be a part of this as well.
Yeah.
And I'm going to share what I've learned with other people as well.
Yeah.
So it's a great thing.
Yeah.
A great thing.
Sure is.
All right. Well, thank you so much for watching. You got all the way to the very end of this video. Here's what you need to do. You need to like it. You need to share it. You need to comment on this. Tag people in this video. Let other people see this. And encourage your church to host one of our workshops to have and to hold with Alex and Kira Mills. God bless you.